Sometimes the struggle is not believing in God, is what comes after that. You believe He's real, you believe Jesus died for you, you understand that there is a way back. Then you start asking a different question. What does God actually expect from me now? And this is where many people begin to feel the tension, because the moment you hear about God's commands, something inside of you reacts. It feels like pressure. It feels like a limitation. It feels like your freedom is about to be reduced. And even if you do not say it out loud, the thought is there. Is God trying to control my life? Because if you are honest, most of us do not resist God because we think He's evil. We resist because we are not sure if following Him will actually make our lives better. And that question matters more than you think, because how you answer that will shape how you respond to everything God says. If you believe God is holding something back from you, then every command will feel like a restriction. But if you begin to see that God is actually protecting something in your life, then everything starts to shift. Think about how this works in real life. No one likes limits. You do not like being told how fast you can drive. You do not like being told what you can and cannot do. You want freedom. But imagine a world with no limits at all. No traffic laws, no boundaries in relationship, no consequences for choices. At first, that sounds like freedom, but very quickly it turns into chaos. Because freedom without boundaries does not lead to life, it leads to damage. And we see this all the time. In relationships, when there are no boundaries, people get hurt. In finances, when there are no limits, people end up broke or in debt. In life, when there are no guardrails, things fall apart. So maybe the problem is not boundaries. Maybe the problem is how we understand them. And this is where we need to be honest. Many people see God's law as something negative, something restrictive, something that takes away joy. And if that is how you see it, it makes sense why you would struggle with it. Because why would a good God give you something that works against you? But what if that assumption is wrong? What if God's commandments are not there to take something away from you, but to protect something in you? Because this is not a new struggle. This goes all the way back to the beginning. The first temptation was not just about disobedience. It was about trust. The question was planted. Can you really trust God? Or is He holding something back from you? And that same question is still here today. Every time you read something in scripture that challenges you, that question comes back. Is this for my good? Or is this limiting me? And how you answer that will determine whether you lean in or pull away. So instead of starting with rules, let's start with something deeper. Let's start with who God is. Because if God is good, then what He gives will always be good. And this is exactly what the scripture shows us. In Psalms 19, it says, "The law of the Lord is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart." That is not the language of restriction. That is the language of restoration, of wisdom, of joy, which means God's law is not working against your life. It is working for it. And this connects directly to what we saw in the sanctuary. God did not create distance. He made a way back. He moved toward you. He opened access. So it would not make sense for that same God to then give you something that pushes you down. The same God who died to restore you is the one who now teaches you how to live. Not to control you, but to preserve what He restored. When we look at God's law, we are not looking at random rules. We are looking at the picture of what life looks like when it is aligned with how you were created to live. That is why Exodus 20, before God gives a single command, He starts by saying who He is. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. In other words, I am the one who already rescued you. I am not giving you these commands to earn something. I'm giving them to protect what I have already done in your life. And this changed the entire conversation. Because now the law is not a ladder you climb to reach God. It is a framework that strengthens your relationship with Him and with others. And you can actually see this in how the commandments are structured. The first part focuses on your relationship with God. The second part focuses on your relationship with people, which means every command is relational. It is about connection. It's about protecting what matters most. And this is exactly what you see in the Ten Commandments. They are not random rules. They are relational boundaries. The first part protects your relationship with God. The second part protects your relationship with people. When God says, do not lie, He's protecting trust. When He says, do not commit adultery, He's protecting faithfulness. When He says, remember the Sabbath, He's protecting your identity and your rest. These are not disconnected commandments. They are all pointing to the same thing: how to live in a way that keeps your relationship with God and others whole. If you step back and look at all of them, you start to see the pattern. The first commands protect your connection with God. Don't replace Him. Don't reduce Him to something smaller. Don't misuse His name. Remember Him in your time set apart. And the rest protects your connection with people. Honor your parents, respect life, protect relationship, be honest. Don't take what is not yours. Don't live in constant comparison. When you look at it this way, the law is not a random list. It is a structure for life. It shows you how to live in a way where your relationship with God is strong and your relationship with people are healthy. Take something simple like honesty. At first, it might feel like a restriction. Why can't I just say exactly what I think? Why do I have to filter my words? And sometimes people justify being harsh or rude by saying, I'm just being honest. But honesty, in the way God describes, is not about saying everything you think without care. It's about truth spoken with integrity and love. Because when honesty is used as an excuse to hurt people, it breaks trust just as much as lying does. But when honesty is lived the right way, it protects something essential. It builds trust. It creates safety in relationships. People know where you stand, but they also know you are not there to tear them down. And over time, that kind of honesty creates depth, not distance. So the command is not limiting your voice, it's shaping it. It is strengthening your relationships from both deception and unnecessary harm. Or take something like rest, the Sabbath. That can feel like a limitation, a whole day where you stop. In a world that rewards constant movement, that feels uncomfortable. But what is God protecting? He's protecting your identity, your reminder that you are not defined by what you produce, that your life is sustained by Him, not by your constant effort. Or think about faithfulness in relationships. That can feel restrictive. Why limit myself to one person? Why not keep your options open? Why not follow what feels in the moment? But what happens when there is no faithfulness? Relationships become uncertain. People hold back because nothing feels secure. Connections stay shallow. Faithfulness builds something deeper. It creates stability. It allows trust to grow over time. It gives space for real connection, not something temporary. So the command is not limiting your life. It is protecting your ability to experience something lasting. When you start looking at the law this way, it stops feeling like control and it starts to look like protection. Because every command is guarding something valuable in your life. And this is important to say clearly. God's law does not remove your freedom. It protects your freedom from destroying itself. Because you still have the ability to choose. God does not force obedience, but he does show you what leads to life and what leads to damage. And maybe this is where things start to become more honest, because most of us have lived long enough to see what happens when boundaries are ignored, not just in theory, but in real life. Choices that felt good in the moment, but created consequences later. Situations where we thought we knew better, but end up dealing with the results. And this is not about shame. This is about clarity. Because God is not trying to punish you. He's trying to spare you from unnecessary pain. And this is also where we need to be careful about something. Not everything people call God's rules actually comes from God. There are traditions, cultural expectations, human interpretations, and sometimes those things do feel heavy. They do feel restrictive. But that is why you need to go back to what God actually said, because what comes from Him will always reflect His character. And His character is consistent. He builds up, He restores, He brings peace. He does not create fear or pressure. When you look at God's law, do not just ask, what does this require? Ask, what is this protecting? What part of my life is God trying to guard? What kind of life is He leading me into? Because at the end of the day, this is not about behavior first. It is about trust. Do you trust that God knows what leads to life better than you do? Do you trust that His way is not random but intentional? And this brings us back to something very important. You are not saved because you keep the law. You are saved by grace, period. Through faith that has already been made clear. But once you are in that relationship, the law becomes a guide, not to earn God's love, but to live inside it. Obedience is not about trying to prove something. It is a response. It is saying, I trust you, even when I do not fully understand, even when it feels uncomfortable. I trust that you are leading me somewhere good. And here is something that matters for you to hear. You will not do this perfectly. You will still struggle. You still make mistakes. But that does not remove you from the relationship. Because the same grace that brought you in is the same grace that keeps you. When you fall, you go back, you confess, you reset, and you keep walking. Not in your strength, but in His. Because God is not asking you to figure it out alone. Philippians 2:13 says that it is God who is at work in you, both to will and to work for His good pleasure, which means He's not only calling you, He's helping you, He's shaping your desires, He's giving you the strength to follow Him. This is not about putting more pressure on yourself. It is about learning to trust God's heart, letting Him reshape how you see His commands, not as something against you, but as something for you. And maybe this is where you need to pause for a moment. Because if you have been seeing God's law as something heavy, something restrictive, something that takes away from your life, this is your chance to see it differently. Not as control, but as care. Not as limitation, but as guidance. God is not trying to hold you back. He's trying to lead you forward into a life that is whole, a life that is stable, a life that reflects what you were created for. The question is not whether God's commands are good. The question is whether you trust Him enough to follow them. And next week, we are going to look at one command that challenges us in a different way. Not by asking you to do more, but by asking you to stop. Because even when you understand that God's ways are good, many of us still live under constant pressure to keep going, to keep producing, to keep proving ourselves. And God interrupts that. He gives us space to rest, not because you earn it, but because you need it. And we are going to talk about why that matters more than you think. But before we go there, stay with this. God's law is not there to restrict your life. It is there to guard the life He gave you. If you're watching this on YouTube and you wanted to be part of this live where we can actually talk and not just listen, check the description below. You will find the information there on how to join us live every week. Be part of the conversation. Don't just watch it. I wanted to see you next week. And for those that are here live, let's talk. Hello, welcome back. I am happy everyone is here. And as we always do, we will do a little poll that helps us start the conversation. And I will share with you. Then I'm going to cancel it because it's weird how Zoom is set up. Then I'm going to allow the panelists to be able to do it and relaunch, and it is ready. Now you can start answering. If this is the first time that you're here, there are some names here that I do not recognize. And I do see that Jacqueline, can I call you Jack? I'm already giving you a nickname, I don't know. I don't know if you actually, it's called Jackie, but Tina is here for the first time. At least one person I know is here for the very first time. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Jam, that's your nickname, Jam? Is that how you say it? When I see you, tell me if I'm saying it right. But where is that from? English gets me so confused. But if you're here for the first time, this is how we pretty much gauge the conversations through this poll. I am not strictly only using the questions in the poll as we talk. I like to be more organic and natural, but sometimes we are kind of like, I am kind of lost. Where do I go now? Do I have a question here? The poll helps. So please help me by answering these questions. These questions are how you honestly feel. They are completely anonymous. I have no idea who answered what, so you can be free to answer. So the first one says, before this message, how did you mostly see God's commands? Restrictive, confusing, neutral, helpful. And the second one says, after today, how do you see God's commands? Mostly restrictive. That's how I used to see it. Somewhat helpful, mostly protective, very life-giving. Do you believe God's commands are for your good? Yes. Not sure. No. Which area feels most challenging for you right now? Trusting God's direction, being consistent in daily life, relationships, is slowing down and resting. We will talk about resting more next week, but it's part of it today too. When you hear God's law, what do you feel first? Pressure, resistance, curiosity, peace. Number 6, do you feel like you've seen God's boundaries as limiting in the past? Yes, sometimes. Not really. No. Number 7, after this message, do you feel more open to following God's guidance? Yes, a little more. Not sure? Nope. What is one step you feel led to take this week? And I put to allow you guys to give a long answer, but the answer doesn't show here. So I don't know how that's going to help. Maybe in the results. It's the first time that I actually put something that is not multiple choice. And Jacqueline said that Gem, oh, they're your initials. Oh, that's smart. I like it. Nice. So I'm allowed to call you Jam. I think so. I see that about 70% have answered, so we need a few more minutes. This is what we're gonna do. I'm starting to feel my throat because I've been talking too much and I forgot to bring my water. So I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes. I'm gonna turn off my camera while you're answering the poll. I'm gonna run to the kitchen and come right back. I am back, and I believe everybody finished answering the poll. I think so. The panelists can start turning on their cameras. And I am going to end the poll. I'm gonna open it up here. This is good. I'm curious to see how the last one come out. Awesome. People did answer. You guys are the best. Okay. So we are going to introduce our panelists right now. And today you're giving your name, your location, and share with us something that you like to eat. And if you have extra points if you have something exotic that you like to eat. Cool? Let's see, who's excited? Who wants to go first? Rebecca? Go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca Gottfried. My family and I, we live in Staley, North Carolina, south of Greensboro. And she asked for something exotic. This is Korean. They're called pot stickers. They're like dumplings with vegetables inside, and you can cook them or fry them. And I remember them with great delight from my Korean students back when we were doing mission work together.
That is awesome. I like that. Lately, I'm really into Korean food, but I'm not that adventurous because I usually just get the same thing. Bibimbap, that's all I get. Bibimbap.
Yeah.
Love the kimchi. Never thought I was gonna like that, but I absolutely love kimchi.
Yeah.
Okay, Logan.
Hi, my name is Logan. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I have a lot of favorite foods. I oftentimes struggle to, to oh my gosh, to pick a specific one, but for today, I will say that Thai pad see ew is my favorite.
Very nice. How about Isaac?
Yes, I'm Isaac Oxentenko. I'm currently in Hampton, Virginia. Um, Food I like to eat. Well, it's not really a food, but it's more like a kind of like a snack. Sour Patch Kids.
Mm,
Just the sour powder. You can get that. Yeah, I like how that makes my mouth feel.
feels good. Xavier.
Hey everyone, I'm Xavier. I am down here in Oviedo, Florida, which is a little bit outside of Orlando. Um, I'm gonna say dal puri for me, which is like Trinidadian roti, which is like a flatbread, but it has dal, um, which are lentils but curried in like really thin layers in between. So,
Interesting. If here is hot today, I could just imagine there.
and I'm wearing black.
Hopefully you have AC. Yeah. Isaac, are you living in Virginia or just staying there now?
I live here, but I'm on a work trip to Tennessee, but I'm back visiting here for like a week or two. So,
But you can stay in Tennessee for a long time because I thought you,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
nice. Marcos,
Hello there. I'm Marcos. I am from a little town in North Carolina called Rockingham, and I do not have an exotic food for you today. I'm just
no?
gonna go with no, we're gonna go with pasta. I
Oh, okay.
just
It's not exotic, but it's your favorite food. That's fine. People in the chat, please share. I should have said this at the beginning so you guys could be sharing, but please share something exotic while I am talking. By the way, talking about talking. Liz, thank you so much for telling me that you guys would like to have some silence. The reason why I keep reading as you guys are answering is because, especially online, it gives me like this thing of I can't be silent, like feeling that it's going to be boring for you. But if you guys tell me I prefer to answer in silent, I will definitely do that. Now, açaí, yeah, Logan, you like that. Now, I want to know if the camera is not good, this is going to look really weird. But I found this yesterday at Publix for the first time. And I was like, I can't believe they have this. Who knows what this is? It's not poop.
Is it tamarind?
Yes, yes. Does anybody besides Xavier know what this is? So I am going to break it. I grew up with this. We made like popsicles out of this. So it has like this little pod, and there is a paste, and inside this paste there's seeds, and it's kind of like the sour patch. Like it's a sour sweet thing, and my favorite fruit. I bought a box of this. In Brazil, they usually sell by bags, but I bought a whole box, and I sat for lunch, and I almost ate the whole thing.
That's not tapioca, is it?
No, 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 not even close. Yeah, this is a
What's the name?
fruit.
What's the name?
This is a tamarindo.
Oh,
T-A.
tamarindo. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Faith is saying that she had samosas. They are Ethiopian Indian pastries with potatoes and peas and ooh, interesting fact. In DC Comics, a planet that Starfire is from is named after tamarind. I'm wondering if they inspired on the fruit. My son looked, it's the first time that my son sees it, and he looked at it and he goes, Mom, that looks gross. I can imagine. I can imagine if it's the first time that you're seeing this. But yes, if anybody else would like to share, what is your favorite cuisine? We welcome that. Well, so let's start talking here. Rebecca, who's that next to you?
This is Ruben.
Hi, Ruben.
This is our middle son. He's about to turn 9 years old.
Wow, that is so awesome. You want to be part of the conversation too? You can.
I asked him, "What's your favorite food?" He couldn't come up with it, but I know there's one thing he loves. He loves treats. He loves ice cream.
Yes, I love those too. I shouldn't, but I do.
Oh.
Happy birthday.
So,
Okay, let's do this. Let's start our conversation. One thing that I realized last week, and especially because of some of the feedback that you guys are giving with the questionnaire, is that I never gave you guys, like I'm always asking questions, and I didn't give you guys chances for you to ask questions. So starting today, and hopefully I won't forget, because when I start talking, I get a little too excited and I won't stop. So Marcos, I love you too. Marcos and I know him just by the looks. He's amazed by my not capability. I don't know how to say this. Incapability. Ugh, I can't. I'm getting Brazilian, Portuguese, and English mixed up here. He knows that I'm incapable of awkward silence. They are the worst for me. So if you're quiet, I start talking. But anyways, my point is, starting today, you guys can ask questions. Why I never thought about that? Anyway, so I'm going to start asking questions. If you here in the panel or in the chat, if you have questions, please do ask. By the way, those that in the chat that would like to participate but wants to be anonymous, all you have to do is go to the bottom. There's an area there that says Q&A, and a Q&A gives you the choice to either say your name or to be anonymous, okay? So you can ask questions that way as well. So the first question we had here was, how did you see God's commands before this message? And to be honest with you, from the people that I have here, I believe that the answers here are pretty similar in the sense of, I don't think anybody here doesn't like God's law, but at the same time, there can be confusion, and I wanted to talk about that in a little bit. But the first answer we had, majority of the people feel like God's law is very helpful, and just 23% felt that they're neutral. Let's see here. And then when we ask, after today's message, how do you see God's commands? And it shifted a little, and it still was the majority, but the majority just went higher to very life-giving. Awesome. It doesn't generate a lot of questions that I can ask you guys, but I'm gonna get there. Do you believe that God's commands are good for you? 100% is the first time that I have a question that people answer 100% yes. You guys are very good people, because I did not see it that way before. And I have a feeling that people that are not in churches may see this different. Can we talk about that? Why do you think, and let me see who am I going to ask. I'm going to start with Xavier. Why do you think that some people will look at God's law as something restrictive, not good, and etc.?
I mean, I think a large part of it comes from the relationship they have with the law through perhaps who raised them. So if it was like hyper legalism and there was no examination of the like this law is here to protect and to enable you to better love one another, both like family, friends, as well as yourself. And instead it was more of the cans and can't do's. And every time like there was some semblance of like I feel like this is like a passionate way through like for me for like visual arts or something that I might be able to better image God, and then it was like shut down because it's like that's not a traditional ministry. Then it was like okay, so it feels like there is no room for joy in the midst of law keeping. um and so it can be a huge turnoff, and it can even unfortunately be weaponized into it can be used as justification for abuse, which unfortunately I'm sure has happened in people's instances, and that's what's driven them to um, be at a place where they don't desire to know more about God because the little bit of knowledge they got came from an unsafe place and was a very warped distortion of what the law was meant to be, the purpose it was meant to serve. So I think those might be some reasons. I don't know. I think there are more, but those are some.
I agree. Logan.
I think that the the law is something that people don't necessarily enjoy practicing if they enjoy their sin. Because at the end of the day, sin is enjoyable. It feels good. That's why we do it. And it takes that impetus from God that says, yes, this sin does feel good. It's not good for you. Not only is it not good for you, but there's also a better way. And I think a lot of times we may understand that, we may recognize that, but we're not ready to give up our sinful diet, if you will.
And I do a lot of Bible studies, and I'm continually giving Bible studies. And this is also the view that I had before. And recently, I'm studying the Bible with 3 people. And one, she already comes from an evangelical background. One, he comes from a spiritualistic background. And the other one, she's kind of like a mix of Catholic with spiritualism and evangelism. It's evangelicalism, so it's a little mix. But especially him, he he's the one that challenged me the most. But what I noticed with every single Bible study, and I probably already have given Bible studies to at least 100 people, is a lot of times we don't understand everything what it means law in the Bible. We don't understand the separation to ceremonial law, health principle laws, the Ten Commandments. And we give everything the same value. So either you're going to follow everything or you just drop everything. So if you're mixing fabric, you're already sinning. So why do you think it's important to keep the Sabbath? Do you see what people do? So not understanding the different categories, which we are not even going to get into too much here, and I didn't get it into the sermon, but because they don't understand that certain laws were temporary for a time to show something that was just a shadow to something that was going to happen in the future, and things of that nature, putting everything in one bucket and giving everything the same value created the our night, our or nothing type of mentality. You guys follow what I'm trying? Yeah, cool. Okay, let's see here.
Can I push back on that and push on that
Go
back
ahead,
on
go
that a
ahead.
little bit? Because I think some people
Go
will
ahead.
take that statement and say, okay, then, so technically it's okay if we take some parts of the law and ignore others. And I agree with your statement. There's ceremonial laws and there's the Ten Commandments and whatnot. But I think it's also important to point out that Jesus, or I don't know if Jesus said this, but if you break one, you break, I think it was specifically the Ten Commandments. If you break one, you break all of them. And I wish if somebody can support me, I wish I could find out where that is in the Bible, but
it's in James, and actually that's part of my Bible study every week that I give. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I do believe I think you're right. Your mentality is right, but if we don't truly understand the different type of laws, we will feel that way. If you break one, you break all. The thing is, do you guys know in Deuteronomy there is a law that says that when you go, I have to pull this up because it is truly an interesting passage. Can you guys talk? Marcos, Xavier, talk by yourselves there, and I'm gonna find this passage in the Bible because I think it's gonna be interesting for us to see.
Were you done with what you were saying, Logan?
yes.
Okay. I just wanna, while she looks for that, it was really interesting to me because I had heard that sort of difference explained many different ways. I was studying on this a while back, and the way that the teacher explained it was a way that I'd never heard before, right? He was like, who did God give that specific law to? And many times, for instance, we think Ten Commandments and all the other laws were all given to the people of Israel. But if you look and you actually study into the Bible, there's a lot of the concepts that are in the Ten Commandments and other laws that, certain people believe that should or shouldn't be kept. That if you look at the people that God was giving it to, that way you can see who it applies to in a sense, which I thought was really interesting. One example of that, let's say, for example, in the Ten Commandments, although yes, the Ten Commandments were given to Israel, and it says, "Thou shalt not murder." But really, capital punishment appears much earlier in Genesis, where God is like, if you shed the blood of man, then your blood will be shed by man. So we know that he was at this point, he's not speaking to the people of Israel because they don't exist as a people. So this applies to everybody that was alive at that time and their descendants, hence us. Uh, so when Xavier mentioned that it was James 2:10 when it talks about uh, God's moral law, which never changes, and when you decide, oh, I want to pick and choose this one because I like this one, it doesn't hurt my ego. But then that one, whichever other one is, I don't like that one because it doesn't sit right with me. I want to drop that off. It comes from not knowing who God was speaking to, in a sense. I don't know if that makes sense. I might be going around in circles. But if God was speaking to you and it applies to you, then I have to grab everything that he said for me and use it for me.
Got it, got it. Okay, I found the passage and I also have a comment here in the Q&A. So the passage says, this is Deuteronomy 23:12, and says, you shall also have a place outside the camp and go out there. And you shall have a spade among your tools, and it shall be when you sit down outside, you shall dig with it, and you shall turn to cover up your excrement. So what God is talking about here is that when you go, number 2, make sure that among your tools, you have something that you're going to make a hole, and you're going to go number 2, and you please cover it. So this is part of the healthy law. Is this valid for today? The
No.
principle is that, what is the principle here? They were in the desert. They did not understand about bacteria, germs, and any of that. And actually, the nations around them, the kingdoms, the people around them were dying for very preventable diseases. They didn't have a microscope to be able to understand what these things were, but God gave them a set of rules. The principle still is valid. The principle is hygiene. Cover. Don't let things fly. Don't let the flies sit on the feces and then go to the food and so on. But do we need, every time we have a stomach ache, to have a shovel go outside and make a hole? That we don't need to do anymore. So understanding the principle of the law is very important, and understanding which category they're falling. Because in the 10 Commandments, I already had a Jehovah Witnesses that knocked in my door, and it told me the same thing. Oh, the 4th commandment, you just need to understand the principle of the law, and you don't need to keep the Sabbath itself as long as you keep one day. That I disagree. Do you see why we need to be careful and understand exactly which each law category will fall under? So, and it might be more, but what I understand, there is the ceremonial laws, there's the healthy laws, and there's the 10 Commandments. Ceremonial, it was only while there was the whole ritual of the tabernacle, and the very last one that became obsolete was the sacrifice. It's when Jesus died. That was the end of it. That was the beginning when they went to the desert all the way to the Jesus death. That was done. It became obsolete after he died. The healthy laws, the principles are also forever, but you don't specifically have to follow literally. And then we have the moral law that the Bible says is eternal. I think I saw some hands moving. I'm not sure if somebody else wanted to make a comment. Nope. Okay. I have a comment here that it says that there is a common conflict about pointing things out or correcting others and guilt because of your own sins or faults. Example, quickly prejudging a person because you see them wearing, let's say, a Harry Potter t-shirt or some heavy metal shirt, etc. Is there really a good or right or correct time to point something out? I can sometimes struggle with this. Don't mind me because I can barely see past my planks. Got it. I don't know if you're literally asking or if it was a hypothetical question, or you're asking if there is a good time. I'm going to try to answer this. First of all, this is something that happens, and then I come to you, Rebecca. Okay, so it was not a question, but I think it's important for us to talk about this. Because we have a tendency, especially in our churches, if we see a young person walking in with a heavy metal t-shirt, the feeling that we're going to have is they don't really have a good walk with God. That's why they're wearing that clothing. It could be true. But by coming and talking to them just because of a shirt, just because of a skirt, just because of a ring, just because of an earring, most of the times we're just going to push people away. Rebecca.
So when I was 13, I was at this church youth group. We were at someone's house. We were boating, and I was wearing a t-shirt that had X-Files, which was like about aliens and stuff on my shirt. And one of my friends who was a year older than me, she's like, "Why are you wearing that at a church event?" And at the time I was like, I was just trying to show off, you know. And now that I'm older, she's still my best friend. I love her so much. She still lives in Michigan and I'm in North Carolina, but I go and check on her. She goes to a church, and I'm so glad that she said something to me, because no, it didn't really change me and I still kept wearing it. But you know what? It was God who's been working in my life, and I'm so glad she said something. I don't recommend doing that all the time for myself. I don't feel comfortable personally. I know that as a mother, I have 3 children. My husband and I, we were trying really hard to teach our children to be respectful and obedient. And I think that's a great testimony. And I think sometimes that can preach better than my sermon of, you know, giving feedback to somebody.
I have a feeling that there is a place and time for us to come to somebody and pointing something, okay? There is the place and time. When is this place and time? I am sorry, but this is one of my pet peeves. Before, if you are not that person, good friend, if that person doesn't know you love them, but they need to know, not you assume that they know, they need to know you love them. If you never spend time with them, if you never go out with them, if you never invest on them, just don't. The right time is that person is comfortable with you. They talk to you about many things. They come and they ask you. Do you want to know that perfect time is when they ask you, "Hey, I've been having these feelings. What do you think about this?" If they're comfortable enough, then it's still in love, not like, "Oh my God, I've been waiting for this opportunity and I'm going to lay it down." Not that. But that is still with love. You let them know. Because unfortunately, we have been, instead of being the laws, like in keeping of the law, we've been keeping the gates of the church and keeping the people outside. And we're not called to be gatekeepers. You know, we're called to be laws keeper. Oh, my English today has been special. But we have to be very careful, because let me tell you, if you think you're the only person that God can use to change that person's life, you're making a big mistake. Go, Marcus.
Okay. There's something that Isaac said as an answer to the question. I don't know if you guys had checked that out, but he said it's about engagement. Do you really want to know about the person and why they do something? Or is it just an observation you personally judged to be wrong and wish to call out to assert superiority? Especially that last part of the phrase, asserting superiority. Where are we coming from when we are reaching out to this person? There's something that you mentioned, and I want to tie it in with what he mentioned. The importance of relationship. Just because somebody walked into the doors of the church does not mean that you have the relationship or are the person that can speak into their life. The reaction that, for instance, Rebecca mentioned, was this person your friend when she spoke to you? I'm curious about the situation. Was she your friend? Did you guys already know each other? That's an actual question.
You asking Rebecca?
Or Jacqueline.
No, Rebecca,
Oh,
about the story that you shared.
yeah. So she and I grew up together. We had known each other since I was like 2 years old. And, you know, we we went to the same church since I was 2, and we were at this youth event. We were all having fun, and she and I both loved X-Files. We went home and watched X-Files, not on church day. And so, but I wore that shirt to that youth event, and she called me out.
Okay, the reason why I ask is because what you just told me lets me know that she was somebody that could speak into your life. Like, how do I say this nice? I'm not even gonna say this nicely. I'm gonna say this honestly. The average person, and I'm gonna place myself first, has what we call a fragile ego. Okay, we have a very delicate sense of self, and we don't like to be attacked. Hence the importance of speaking truth and love. When I come, and again, I also, something that I love about your example is the fact that it's a peer talking to you. This is a peer to peer. Let me make an observation to you out of love of something that I'm seeing that is not ideal or that I consider to not be ideal. It didn't, she didn't transform your life or anything, but it's a peer to peer conversation where many times we get this, I am somebody who knows the Lord. I am God's people. You are an outsider. And I am correcting you because I stand above you and look down on you and tell you what has you beneath me. And that's the problem. Or you have many times it happens between older people and younger people, and you have the older individual approaching the young person, which again, the problem is not that they're old and the person is young. It's again the pedestal feeling where somebody from a pedestal is looking down to speak to another. And the distance that there's no connection, because I've had older people that come to me and call me out for things that I'm not gonna lie, when I was spoken to in the moment, it did irritate my ego. But this was somebody that could speak into my life. So you get to sit with it and digest it. Even if at the beginning you have that, because we are human, we still have that reaction, but you have the mental capacity to process what was said because of who said it. So going back to what Jacqueline asked, is there a correct time? Yes, there is a correct time, but adding and kind of closing it with what Chris said, am I the correct person? And am I coming from the right place? Every time that being the correct person or not being the correct person comes up, I think about the story of David and Solomon, where David is so invested in wanting to build this temple for God, and God literally tells him, "It's not going to be you. You are not the person." And building the temple was a great thing and something that God wanted. But sometimes, and it can be very painful, but sometimes I'm not going to be the person. I'm going to see something that might not be ideal, but I'm going to know I don't have the relationship with this person. That's where I either go and build the relationship so that I can speak to them, or I find somebody that I know is already close to this person. I point it out to them. Have you noticed this about this person that you're close to? Here's what I see. I'm not in the position to speak to them about it. Maybe if if we are on the same page, you could be somebody that could bring that topic up to them.
And I would take one step further if I can give another suggestion. Pray. Ask the Holy Spirit to show that person. Because what happens, so let me confess my sins here. It's good for the soul. When I first became Adventist, I became extremely legalist, okay? And I already shared with some of you here. And I went as missionary to the Amazon, and while I was in the Amazon, this group of young adult Adventists, this is the first group of young adults that I worked with. This is how God showed me that He wanted me to work with young adults. I had no idea. And the group that came, they were all children of the church. They became young adults, but they were all raised in the church. And we had people. There was one girl that she was completely gothic. That was okay. Let me not start listing sins here, because just imagine that in a group of 30, we had everything and in between. You know? Yeah. Anyways, so me with my legalistic mind, I wanted to correct everybody. I wanted to start just like laying down the rules, and God slowly started. First of all, God didn't give me the opportunity to speak what I wanted to do, and then He started working with my heart. I never had a chance to talk to them, and I thought I had to do it because I read Ellen White said that if somebody's sinning and you don't tell them, their blood is on you. I'm like, it's my job to do it. I think I'm not saying that Ellen White is wrong. What I'm saying is we love those texts. You know, those are texts that are like, I don't follow anything else that Ellen White says, but those, it's my job, it's my call. And that was my attitude back then. But what started happening is that I started teaching them about the Bible, teaching them about Jesus. And I started loving them. I started caring for them. I was legalist, but still in my heart, I have always been this person who really cared about people. So everybody has the good and the bad side, okay? Not everybody's all bad. I was a little bad and a little good, I think. Anyways, slowly, the girls start showing up with longer skirts. The girl that was completely emo started changing the way that she dressed, and especially the way that she looked at me. Today, we're good friends. I didn't have to do it. God loves them before I can ever care for them. God already loves them. So those are things that we need to start looking at it. Isaac, I'm looking at you, and up to this point, we didn't give you a chance to talk at all. Why don't we do this? And I'll come to you next, Rebecca. Isaac, can you do me a favor? Do you mind reading the question and the answer that you gave?
Sure. Okay, so the question was, what do you say to those church leaders that are more conservative, strict by the laws of God, that approach things without love and compassion? Such as if someone wears a Harry Potter or X-Files shirt or jewelry or anything that seems inappropriate by church standards, and a church leader tells them that they're going to hell, or that God is going to punish them, or that is the reason they may be struggling in their life. How do you advise those that have received church hurt and still can't find a loving, kind, Christ heart community church? Thanks. I responded with, to those who speak out and are outspoken judges, ignore them. By ignore them, I mean keep a conscious mind that these people are not perfect. They most likely came from a generation that this happened to them a lot, and that there needs to be an understanding that such things will happen. In 50 years, that young generation of that age will have the same types of thoughts about you, and it requires the keeping an open mind on both sides. Of course, if the church is too toxic, remove yourself from an unproductive conversation or company. So, it's always that too.
Did you want to add anything else?
I think I said most of what I meant by that. So, yeah.
Yeah, we are a very talkative group, so you have to raise your hand. Yeah, the biggest challenge that I have is this. So, as a young adult director for the conference, I was given the challenge to figure it out why we're losing so many young adults. How do we bring them back? And the difficult is exactly what Isaac is saying here. These are not evil people that are pushing people away. They're people that love God. And in their hearts, they believe they're doing what is hard, what is right in the eyes of God. So the difficulty is, how do I help them understand that the way they're doing things is wrong? Not exactly what they're saying a lot of times, but the way. The other things that, let me give you guys an example. Third commandment says, do not take God's name in vain, right? And what most of us understand about this commandment? Just unmute yourself and tell me what you understand about the third commandment.
Don't like curse God's name. Don't use it flippantly.
Yeah. So most of us learn that we shouldn't say, oh my God, right? And it's so funny because when I came to the US and I see the Christians here, like I said, oh my God. And somebody was like, don't say that. I was like, what did I do wrong? I didn't even curse, but it was because I was just using his name in vain, let's say. But that is a very superficial understanding of this law. What is actually behind this is, the Crusades where in the name of God we kill millions. The people that open churches and in the name of God are taking advantage of people and getting lots of money. In the name of God, that man that had a dream that I'm going to marry this young lady or I'm going to marry 50 young girls because God told me to, that is taking God's name in vain. Am I saying that go ahead and keep saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God? No, I'm not saying that. But we need to look deeper. And what we were talking about here, a Harry Potter shirt, X-Files shirt, a jewelry, honestly, for me, that is superficial level. My biggest challenge is this. That girl with the Harry Potter, or the girl with extremely short skirt, or the girl that is full of tattoos or piercing. We have no idea what is happening in her mental health, in her family. We have no idea what is happening behind that. If you're not taking the time to get to know this person, you are not the person to talk to her about her shirt. Sorry, this one I cannot be light. Become friends with this person, because majority of the time, guys, I had I had a group of people that had a ministry back in Brazil that they were reaching out prostitutes and they were helping with the human trafficking. Believe it or not, a lot of times in human trafficking, they volunteer to be trafficked. Okay? Not really trafficked, they don't know exactly what they're getting into, but they look like they become prostitutes or they're human trafficked because they were being molested at home, and I'm doing this for free, might as well just get some money out of it. So we look at it, oh, they're having an easy life. We judge without understanding what is behind. And because we're so far removed from this reality, because we are inside our bubbles, it's hard for us to see. And inside our bubbles, inside our churches, there is abuse. And a lot of times, I don't care. I want my church full of tattoo people, full of piercings, full of everything. I want to love them so much until they're so full of the Holy Spirit that the things are going to drop it. The skirts become longer, the earrings, and I don't want to say one word about that. That's what I learned from my experience. Wow, and you guys touch a very, what do you say, a nerve that I can go on forever. Rebecca, go.
I like what you said, because I read the story just 2 days ago about a missionaries going to a communist country, and their lives were at risk because they were not supposed to be doing religious things, and their car breaks down on the way. A wheel bearing breaks, and the men are getting discouraged, and they're like, let's just quit, let's just stop. And one guy says, no, we're not going to stop, we're going to keep going. And they start singing hymns, and the wheels going pop, 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 the car is shaking, and the men are singing hymns as they're going on this mission, and the pop, pop, pop stops, and the car stops shaking, and they make it to the Bible study, they share the gospel, and they're coming back now to their city, and they're still singing hymns, the car's okay. And then they stop singing hymns, and the pop, pop, pop comes, and the car starts shaking, And the guys were like, well, we better start singing again. So they start singing hymns again, and the car stops shaking, and the car stops going pop, pop, pop. They made it home, and a mechanic looks at the car and he says, in disbelief, I cannot believe you made it to that city and back because your wheel bearing broke and it should have jammed the wheel and you should not have gone anywhere. It was a miracle that they got there and back. And yes, they had some troubles with, they had, there was one man who was pessimistic. He was discouraged, but they didn't give up. They tried to encourage each other. And so I think sometimes we make mistakes when we try to help each other, but you know what? With God's help, He will teach us how to love each other and support each other.
Yes, yes. I will go back to the chat, but let me give a chance to Xavier. Go ahead.
Too many buttons here. All right. Um, no, I was just looking in the chat and Jem, I wasn't sure if it was you or Tina who was typing when you were you kind of had mentioned like there were some other like sci-fi like fandoms and stuff, but you've since kind of just kind of like been convicted. I don't know if it's like to just like not have anything to do with them or like where you're at on your journey there. I'm a self-confessed Star Wars fan, so like um I'll say this one. I've never like woke up with like the conviction to be like, oh, let me wear this Darth Vader church to like Sabbath school. Like, let's go. I haven't quite had like that moment, but like when it's been like a during the week thing, that event that we might have like an evangelism series and I'm like coming from work or something, and I have quite a few Star Wars shirts. And I'm like wearing one of those. I don't find myself having like it's not interfering with my ability to receive like what the Holy Spirit's putting down. And I get that there are like increasingly so as the time goes, like weird stuff is encroaching on like so many IPs that like when I was younger, I was like it was pretty cut and dry. It's like good and evil, and then now there's like weird more, and you're like, whoa, what's happening there? Um, all that to say, I have been able to like I literally have a separate I have like my main art page which is like Bible animal inspired art, but then I have a separate one which I don't really like share a lot, but it's called God of the Geek. And what I do on that page is I make more it's nerdier art, but I'm like mining for like the Easter eggs of faith that kind of hit on something that scripture like expounds upon greatly, but like the rest of that, fandom might not like delve into, or it's like Marvel is really good at this. Like they get close to like a biblical truth and then they take a sharp left and you're like, "Oh man, they were like I remember watching I think it was spoiler alert for a movie that's almost 10 years old. Avengers like Endgame, and like near the end Thanos has this whole monologue where he's like, I thought I could build a better universe if I, got rid of half of it, but now I realize I have to wipe it all out. And I was like, are they are they tripping on Noah right now? Like is that what's happening here? And so I had some like conversations, and even at down here in Orlando, we have our Comic-Con event is called MegaCon. But you'd be surprised there are quite a few like faith-based nerds out there doing ministry. So I'm not saying like let the floodgates open of all the IPs. No, like of course, exercise judgment and invite the Holy Spirit to filter what can actually be a benefit to people who don't not yet know Christ. That was a weird English sentence. Um, but I just like through that experience and then like even through my animal art, I had one piece where somebody reached out from I think they're in LA and they're like, "Hey, we are a faith-based recording label. Can we license some of your music?" And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. I would love you to. What type of music?" And it's like, "It's faithcore." And I'm like, "What's that?" And they're like, "It's like Christian metal." And I'm like, "Oh." So the conversation kind of went like can you send me like the song and the lyrics? Because I want to make sure like theologically, like I agree with like what you're putting down before my arts ascribe to it. And they sent me the track and like the lyrics, and it had to do like the song was called Vipers, so it was like kind of about the brood of vipers and like woe to the Pharisees. And so I like read it through and I was like, I mean, this is theologically sound. The medium of like metal, like I'm not even a fan of secular metal that much. So it's like this might not be something that like in itself, like I'm like, ah, this is what led me to search out the word more. But clearly, if this guy is out here with a label and they're producing music like this, there are some people who are maybe coming out of like a purely like secular metal, or they just that's the type of music that they enjoy, and they're like, whoa, this leads me actually to like want to go back into scripture and search it out for myself deeper. Like it was leading me to search out the scripture because I could barely understand what they were saying in the song, so I had to like go back and be like, what's happening here? Um, all that being said, like I think we put ourselves um in danger of not being fully utilized for God's purposes when we as humans decide to say these are the limits of God's sandbox, because then we as finite beings are trying to contain an infinite being. And yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of different directions you can go off of that, but I'll let Marcos take it.
After Marcos, I'm gonna make one comment and we're gonna be done. This conversation was awesome. Go, Marcos.
Okay, I was gonna type it in the chat, but it is too long.
Uh-huh.
So just going off of what Xavier was saying, there's also the importance of recognizing that God calls different people to different fields. And we need to understand that yesterday. I'm sorry, like we're so slow at understanding that. Listen, God called, prime example, Paul was called specifically as an apostle to the Gentiles. Were the rest of the apostles not supposed to go to the Gentiles? Yes, they were. Did God know that due to the Jewish mindset, they just weren't, they hadn't received the type of education he had. So it took them so long to get out of that box. We still see Paul having to call Peter out because Peter, like, yeah, he's with the Gentiles, but it's still, it's just that social, oh my goodness, cultural thing. So understand that the Lord is working with you at your speed. But just because you can't understand where somebody else is ministering, stop getting in the way. Because if I see somebody like Paul going out here to the Gentiles, why are you, let's call it the Gentiles, right? People, what did you say it was called? What type of core? Gospel core?
Faith core.
Faith core, yes. So I might not be called to minister to people with faith core. It's not for me. Or it might be for me. But the thing is, I've got to get outside of myself. And I think that's the constant call that God is putting down self. Give up yourself. Let God work with other people as he will. If you think something is wrong, we go back to everything that has already been discussed throughout. But again, always be open to God working very, very differently with other people.
There is one thing that I don't think I mentioned here, the online church yet, but I do remember making a short reel about it. One reason I am very careful in judging how God may be calling this person or another person or the medium that he's going to use. Because in my mind, there is no way that somebody's going to be converted with the hard rock, but you have no idea what God may do. And the reason why I say that is this. When I first started having Bible studies, I had recently watched a movie. Do you guys remember a movie from Jodie Foster called Contact? So, up to that point, I was atheist. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in anything. I started having Bible studies and I watched that movie. And I don't know if you guys remember, or those that haven't watched. So she's an astronaut. She's addicted to life outside of Earth. And she finally is able to get into, I am not remembering too well. Maybe Xavier can help me afterwards. But she goes into space and she has an encounter with her father who had died before. And then she comes back to space. And when she comes out of the capsule, whatever that she was in, just to realize that she has never gone to space. She was on Earth the entire time. But what that movie opened my mind, which today I look at that lesson and I'm like, oh my God, I was so wrong. I was like, there is millions of possibilities. Maybe there is a God. Maybe she did go there, like in spirit or with her mind or whatever it is. It's the experience that she had, which today I totally disagree with this idea. Okay, let me make it clear here. I don't think that is correct. But for that time, it opened my mind to maybe accept that there was a God. Do you see how God works? I am not going to be promoting this kind of thing, but I'm not going to be bashing somebody because in their spiritual journey, God is using a donkey to speak to them. Okay, so that is my problem when Jackie's saying that I want to call you Jackie. Jam is saying, I have chills. I know the movie you're speaking. Yes. So we have to be careful to box God in a way that, first of all, let's make it clear. Am I encouraging sin? Am I encouraging people to continue sinning or just let them do whatever they want or they're fine? No, I'm not like that. And those that are close to me, they know that I'm not like that. What is wrong is wrong. Sin hurts people. Sin kills people. And we're not going to just pretend it's not happening. But you have to know the person. You have to know the right time. You have to know when to talk to them. So, Jackie said, jam, where it said she went straight through, but the white noise video recorded 37 hours. Oh, that's true. It recorded a bunch of hours. There was something like that that told that she did go outside and there was a possibility that she had gone. Anyways, my point is, it opened my vision to maybe there's something else out there. This conversation was awesome. It's been an hour and a half that we've been together and I didn't even feel it. Next week we have more. I hope you guys are enjoying. This is the 5th episode of the, yes, you reminded me about, yes, thank you. So this is the 5th episode of 8. So we have 3 more and we have, next week. There you go. Next week, because I am going to Tennessee for a campus ministry there that I'm speaking at 5 o'clock. I am changing only next week to 3 o'clock. So I hope you guys are okay with that. Next week we meet at 3 o'clock. I do need some people to be part of the panel here. Jam, I think you should be part of the panel. You have help us so much with the conversation. Yes. So next week we meet at 3 o'clock. Let me know if you want to be part of the panel. I'm looking for new people. And Isaac, I think you should come back next week. We didn't give you any chance to talk. I'm going to always start with you because the other talkers here will take over. Let's go, Jam. Yes, Faith wants to be part of the panel again. Awesome. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. If anybody else has any last, no, we're good. Okay, awesome. I see you all next week. Stay safe. Stay with God. Love you all. Love you.